Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jake Rieger, and this is Coding with Jake. So welcome back to part 2 of the Flask tutorial series. As you can see, we're going to introduce Heroku and the Heroku command line. We're going to create and set up our users database. And then I will get into templates and static content and how Flask handles both of those. So let's go ahead and open up our web browser, and we're going to navigate to Heroku.com. So what is Heroku? Heroku is basically a cloud platform that allows you to host your web apps, whether you built them in Node.js, Ruby, Python. You can see all the support down here. And it's really cool. It allows you to add resources like databases to your applications. You can set up custom URLs, all of that great stuff. It's basically just a hosting platform for your web app. So we're going to go ahead and click sign up. So I'm going to put my information in here. I am a hobbyist, live in the US. Primary language is Python, and I don't believe I'm a robot. All right, so let's go ahead and create our account. And we got to confirm our account, so I'm going to go do that, and I will be right back. All right, so we're back. We're on the Heroku dashboard here. One thing I probably should have mentioned in the first tutorial during the prereqs part, I totally forgot about this, but you need Git, which is version control. So just Google Git, G-I-T, go to the first link, go to downloads, and there you go. Just go ahead and download that and install it. That's the easiest way to do it. Once you have that installed, we can continue on here. So we need to install the Heroku command line interface. So go ahead and Google Heroku CLI, click the first link, go to download and install. And here you go. Here are the instructions for whatever operating system you're on. So I'm on Mac, I'll click that, and I'm going to go ahead and cancel because I already have this installed. But if you don't, which you probably don't, go ahead and go through that installer. So once that's done, we can use the Heroku command now. So we're going to go Heroku login. And this is while under our Flask Reddit directory. So it's already got my email in there. But I'm going to go ahead and type it out again anyways. And then our password. And there we go. Logged in as codingwithjake@gmail.com. So now we are logged into the Heroku account. And we can start using Heroku commands. So we need to create an application. But in order to do that, we have to create a Git repository first. So we're going to type git init and hit enter, and that will create an empty Git repository in our Flask Reddit directory. So now we can use Heroku apps :create, and then go ahead and give this a name, flask-reddit-tutorial. These have to be all lowercase, and there you go. So it has created our application. So we should now see that on our dashboard. All right, so here we are at the dashboard. We're going to go ahead and click on Flask Reddit tutorial, and we're going to go to resources, and I should mention you need a credit card on your account. This is free. It won't cost you a thing, but you need a credit card on your account. It's the same with Amazon Web Services and Google App Web, whatever the shit they call it. It's just how it is. If you want to create your own SQL database yourself and just host it yourself, that's fine. You don't have to do this step at all. The whole Heroku thing is actually optional. But we're going to do it this way because it'll make everything easier in the long run, since everything will be all under the same service. So we're just going to go to the search bar here under the resources tab, and we're going to type in MySQL. We're going to use clear DB MySQL. We're going to use the free tier here and just click provision. And there we go. Now we've made our database. We can go ahead and minimize this for now and open up Visual Studio. And here we are in our app.py. So let's go and import SQLAlchemy. All right, so there we go. From Flask underscore SQLAlchemy import SQLAlchemy like that. SQLAlchemy is a Python library that will make communicating with our database much easier. So we need now our connection URL. And we can get this quite simply by typing Heroku config -- app and then the name of our app. So there it is. There's our ClearDB database URL, and it just spits the whole thing out. So we can go ahead and copy this whole thing. I'm going to copy up to the question mark here because this part throws an error in Python for some reason. And then we'll just type app.config. So we're going to set up a config variable, this is called SQLAlchemy underscore database underscore URI equals, and then paste that in. And there you go. Yep, that is, it's long as shit, but, you know, this will work. There are other ways to format this, but this is just so you can clearly see the entire URL here and how it is supposed to look and how it's supposed to be formatted. So now we have to create our database object. So we're going to type db equals SQLAlchemy, like that, and we'll just pass in our app, and there we go. So let me clear this out. Let me activate our environment so we can run our app. And yes, you have to activate your environment every time you want to run your app because all of your packages are installed under your environment. So if you're not in your environment, it's not going to know that you have Flask installed. It's not going to know that you have SQLAlchemy installed, and it'll just throw errors. So make sure you activate your environment. So let's go ahead and run that. Looks good. We're up and running. Let's go and check out our localhost :5000. And there we go. There's our Hello World index from the first tutorial. So we have established a connection to our database. We've created a database object to use and interact with in our main application. So let's go ahead and set up our user model. So this is going to be a class. So we're going to call class, and we're going to call this user, and then this is going to be of type db model. All right, so we need an ID. So ID equals db.column, and then in parentheses, this is of type db.integer, and then this is our primary key. So we're going to set primary key equal to true, just like that. So now we need a username equals db.column, and this is going to be a db.string. We'll allow up to 100 characters. Nullable equals false, so it can't be blank. We want this to be unique as well, so you can't have the same username as someone else. And now we need a email, db.column, db.string, with a max length of 120 characters. This can't be blank, so we'll set nullable equal to false. And unique for this also has to be true. So now we need our password equals db.column, db.string. And when we store the password, we're not storing a plain text password. We're actually going to be storing a hash of a password. So we're going to want this to be pretty long, so we're going to do 120 as well. This cannot be blank, but it doesn't have to be unique. Someone else can have the same password as you. That doesn't matter. So now we need one more field. We need date created. And this is a kind of just a database specific column. We won't ever really use this in our application other than to maybe show like the account age, but that's thinking way ahead. For now, this is just for bookkeeping basically. So this is going to be of type db.datetime, and then we're going to set its default. So we got to come back up here and we're going to import datetime. So it's kind of a weird one, but from datetime import datetime. I always thought that was really dumb, but just datetime.utc now, and that will We'll never have to set this manually. Basically, every time we create a user, the default will just be at the time it was created. So easy enough. So let's just run over this one more time. We have an ID of type integer. It's our primary key. We have a username of type string. It can't be blank and it has to be unique. We have an email of type string. It can't be blank and it has to be unique. We have a password of type string and it can't be blank, but it doesn't have to be unique. And we have a date created, which is of type date time, and the default will just be at the moment this user object is created. So there we go. We have modeled our user. Now we need to create our user model in the database. All right, so while I was recording this, I realized that we are actually missing a requirement. So just go ahead and type pip3 install, and then I believe it is my SQL client for Python 3. Okay, yeah, see, there we go. I already have it installed now. And then for Python 2, I believe it is this, MySQL-Python. If I run this, it'll throw an error, but it might work for you. All I know is that I need to run, or I need to install wherever it is here. Actually, you know what? We haven't frozen our requirements to get those updated. So let's go ahead and freeze those real quick. And let's see if it updated now. Yep, there it is. Okay, so MySQL client. That's what you need to install. All right, so now we can press forward. So we have our virtual environment activated still, so we're going to go ahead and open up an interactive Python shell by typing Python 3 and hitting enter. We're going to import our DB object, our database object, from our app. So from DB, or from app import DB. Go ahead and enter and type db.create_all parentheses and hit enter. There we go. No errors. So what does that mean? That means our table, our user table, which follows this model, has now been created on in our database. And to verify that, I can open up whatever SQL client you're using. I'm using SQL Pro. I'm going to go ahead and copy my username, my password, our host, and our database. And I'm just going to hit connect. And here we go. There we go. Tables user with, and let's see if it got all of these. We've got our ID column, we've got our username column, we've got our email column, we've got our password column, and we have our date created column. So we have created our user table in our database. So this is the first step to setting up user registration, is creating our database model so we have a place to put our data when someone signs up. So we have created and set up our users database. So let's move on finally to introducing templates and static content. So for our template system, we need a folder just in the root directory of our app called templates. If you're using the normal import method, you now need to import render_template like that. But since we're just importing everything, we already have it imported, and we're going to come down to our index route here. So let's go ahead and instead of just returning this plain hello world string, let's return a template. So we're going to return render_template. Now we need to pass a file name in there. We haven't made one yet, but we can just go ahead and type in index.html for now, and let's go ahead and create it. So we'll go ahead and create index.html under templates here, and we'll just type I'm a template, yay. Wonderful. Okay, so let's go ahead and run our app. I made a mistake here by searching through my recent commands. I thought it was in there. Python 3 app.py. And let's go to localhost 5000. And there we go. Now it's returning I'm a template, yay, which is what we have in our HTML here. So that's all fine and dandy, but the point of using the template system is to make our job easier creating the layout. So we're going to use something called template inheritance. So we're going to create a file into templates called base.html. And in here, we're going to set up just your typical HTML document. So just like that, throw in some head tags, throw in some body tags. There we go. But now what we're going to do is we're going to use some of the Jinja 2 syntax, which is the template engine we're using that Flask uses as Jinja 2. And we're going to set up some content blocks. So we're going to call this one block head, and then we can close that block out with just end block. And then we can copy this down to here, and we'll call this block body. So basically what this is doing is this is our outline. This is basically our template for every other page that will inherit this. And when it inherits it, it's going to insert whatever data on that file you have in that block here. So I'll show you exactly what I mean here. So let's go over to index. Let's start off with extends, and then the name of our base template, so just base.html. So there we go. Now this template is going to use this as its layout. So let's set up our head block now, and we'll just do that by literally writing the exact same code here as we did here. So block head and then end block. And we'll do it like that, and then we'll copy our body one down here like that. Okay. So we can go ahead and do title, and let's say homepage is our title, and then we can let's just do an H1 and say welcome to our home page, like that. And now let's see what we get. Boom, there we go. So now we are inheriting from our base, and we're inserting the data where we need it for this page. So we don't have to write this out every single time. We only have to write the content we want to display on the page. And you can see the title change too. So yeah, that's template inheritance in a nutshell. So let's move on to how you would use stuff like JavaScript, style sheets, maybe images, static content for your website. And that's also really simple. We just need to create a folder called static in the root of our application here, and let's just create a file called style.css. So let's say that this is our style sheet for the whole website. So let's just set up some basic code here. Whoops. So we'll do margin 0, padding 0, and then let's just do h1 font-family sans serif. All right. So how would we go about importing this? Well, we could actually do this in our base template here. If this is a style sheet you know that is going to be needed on every single page, you can import that here. This is usually where I would import like the Google font style sheets and all of that, because I know I'm going to be needing those fonts on every page. But in this case, we're just going to import it over here. Since we have a head block, we can import it under anyways. So we'll do link rel equals style sheet, and then this is the important part here. We can't just do something like static / style.css. This will not work. Neither would just style.css. We need to use a function here actually called URL_for. In parentheses, we're just going to put static and then comma file name equals style.css. So this bit right here is Python code. And these double brackets basically mean convert what's in here to like a string. It's a plain text string. So this whole Python statement is going to return the path for this style sheet. And then since we're using the double brackets, it'll just be that string. So that is then our href. That is the link to our static, or to our style sheet. So hopefully this should work. Let's see. And there we go. You can tell that there's no margin or padding anymore because it's right up against the edge of the browser. And now we're using a sans serif font for our H1 tag here, just like we set up. So that's the basic introduction to templates and static files. We'll cover that probably a little bit more in depth as we continue here. But that pretty much concludes part 2. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.